Şimdi dünyaca ünlü video pazarlama alanı dünyaca ünlü bir isim olan Phil Nottingham'ı ağırlayacağız. Now I would like to invite Phil Nottingham to this stage.
Can you hear me okay? Whoa, I can hear myself. Well, it's absolutely wonderful to be here in the artist formerly known as Constantinople, which I think is, let's be honest, the biggest and probably my favorite city in Europe. Absolutely wonderful to be here. If anybody has any good kebab recommendations, I'm all ears. So my name is Phil Nottingham, and I work doing stuff with clickers. Is this working? This is not working. If anybody can deliver me another... Oh, yes, it is. I've gone back too many now. Okay, we're good. So I have kind of two jobs. I work as a video strategy consultant, and I also work marketing the products for Wistia, and specifically the product that Wistia create called Soapbox, a video creation app. And video production has changed an awful lot over the past few years alone. I've been working in video and video marketing for about 10 years. And this was my job when I was first in that space. I was in charge of using one of these Sony DV cam decks to take these old, great big DV cam tapes, load them into this machine, transcode the footage, and turn it into digitally editable content. And this probably took me about 3 to 4 days just to get content from a tape onto a computer for me to edit it, to upload it to the web. I was at the bleeding edge, and I got really good at this. And then, of course, a few years later, my hard-earned skill set is entirely redundant. So when I hear a statistic like this, because of my background, when I hear that by 2019, 80% of the world's internet traffic is going to be video, I start thinking in terms of this. I'm thinking, yes, everything that I'm going to be making is going to be used on these great big cameras here. I'm going to have a giant boom arm that's going to be able to do these crazy cool steady cam footage. And I'm going to be making these beautiful movies. I will be Steven Spielberg for everything that I'm doing in the marketing world going forward. But of course, the video that is going to populate most of the consumption on the web, and in fact it already does, is not shot with a giant, beautiful 4K Sony camera, but rather with something like this, something that most of us are using and creating every day. And we're now in a space where if we want, we can just pay a few bucks and put a 4K camera onto a mug of coffee and get a shot that would have been inconceivable only a few years ago. Or we can perhaps do something I did not so long ago and just decide to record a dog going around in a circle eating peanuts using a 360 camera that costs just $300. And he genuinely goes around and just eats an entire circle of peanuts. So we're in a world where everything before 2005, really we were making for our entire target market in marketing. We were building great big TV ads, big content. Video was a huge investment that was going to be something that we needed to do in order to really build the brand and create something beautiful for ourselves. But we're now in a world that's very different, and we're able to do lots of different kinds of video. We can be creating very small video in-house, and we can be creating very big video perhaps with agencies. But we're in a world now where this stuff that we can do in-house video, which was inconceivable only a few years ago, is now commonplace for most businesses doing marketing. I'll return to this later on. But the core problem here is that video is not a strategy, and it used to be a strategy. It used to be the case that we would say, you know what, we need to get more eyeballs on our brand, we need to build the way people experience who we are and know what we're all about. So we're going to invest in a TV ad, we're going to invest in a big video product, and that will do something for us. But most of us still think in this way, and yet, of course, video is not really a strategy. In fact, video is everywhere. Facebook has had native video now for about 2 years, and it's fast taking over YouTube in spite of some recent controversies. Twitter now has native video. Vimeo has been around for quite a while. We obviously have Instagram, now video-based. Snapchat allows video. Periscope, the live streaming platform from Twitter. Pinterest has video included in it now. We have Facebook Live. We have LinkedIn native video that came out earlier this year. We have video that's now accessible and viewable straight in email apps. We have YouTube, of course, that's been around for over 10 years now, about 14 years. And recently, the newest addition to the pack, Instagram TV. I think this slide was honestly just an excuse for me to use every animation that was possible in PowerPoint. But the problem is that now all marketing channels are video platforms. So while video was once a strategy, video was something exceptional, video is now just the point of entry for most social media marketing, and indeed increasingly all marketing at all, anywhere. So if you're not creating video in your business, the barge, the boat that is sailing up the Bosphorus that will be all the revenue you'll possibly get is now moving away from you, and you're going to have to jump on board very quickly, otherwise Game's up. But there's a problem. Is this working? Yes. But all these videos have different kinds of approaches. So each channel has different types of restrictions. There's different aspect ratios. Instagram is square. YouTube is 69. Facebook allows a variety of different formats. Does this platform cater for in-stream mobile playback, like Facebook does? Are you allowed thumbnails, or is it silent auto-playing videos? What about the supporting metadata? Can you include titles, descriptions, thumbnails, or not? And is this the walled garden like Snapchat and Instagram stories, where you don't really know what you're getting until you click on the button and then something surprises you? So we're dealing with a world with vastly different types of video, and yet most of us are just doing this with the small number of videos that we have. We are taking the video and we're working on syndication. We'll just say, well, what we'll do, we'll make this video and we'll push it to all the platforms that we're playing with. We'll put it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'll cut it up, segment it slightly, and hope for dear life that it works on every single platform. But of course, it doesn't. So we approach online videos if it's TV. We think about the concept. If we have the budget, we'll work with a creative agency to build this compelling idea. We'll then think about distribution in terms of reach and views, getting it to the most number of eyeballs, and then we'll judge success based on the number of people who actually potentially interact with it. And I think this is a deeply flawed model because it really doesn't take into account the nuances that apply to all the platforms that we're dealing with. And this may have worked for TV 60 years ago and served us well for a long period of time. But we now need, as marketers and advertisers, to shift to understand the way our content should be interacting with the platforms. And so while you would have been to all these conferences and heard this kind of thing, create great content, I don't think you should be doing that at all. And today I'm going to evangelize a bit more for making smaller, lower quality videos and spreading them in all different types of ways across all different channels and really making the video for the channel itself. So I'm going to talk through video for acquisition, so getting customers, video for conversion, actually turning them into people who are going to spend money, and then lastly, video for retention. So let's talk through to start with video for acquisition. The problem with this world where we have all these different video platforms that can be used for different types of videos is that we all spread ourselves very thin. The strategy I call the twister approach. I don't know if any of you played that game as a child where you had to move your hands to different kinds of spaces and make sure you all get tangled up with your friends. But this is very, very difficult to master. And the problem with the videos on all these platforms is you can't reasonably be building and creating content for Snapchat, for Instagram, for Facebook, for YouTube, doing all these things all at once, particularly as a small business or an agency. So what you need to do is start to think slightly differently and start to understand the nuances of each platform and just pick a few to work with. So some of the platforms have a very restricted media type. The kind of thing that you're putting on Snapchat or Periscope or email is usually videos that can only be of a certain type, whereas the kind of thing on Facebook and Twitter, you can be a lot more fluid with what you're creating. And also the way in which people interact with your content differs wildly. So Instagram, people are usually more passively looking through. They're just getting on their phones and flicking and looking at pictures and videos. Whereas on YouTube, we're actively searching for things and seeking them out and finding them. And so we need to understand the nuances of how people interact with those platforms in order to create content that really works for them. And this is an approach that I call platform first. And what platform first really means is taking a strategy that looks at where you're going to be distributing the content and building it to account for that rather than trying to deal with it as an artifact. So these four top lists here, this is the content strategy framework I usually use with clients to build out and determine what we're going to be creating and make sure that it works and is effective. You kind of need to look at this platform, number 4 down on the list, and say, well, where can you reach them? And then go back up and say, is the audience there? So if I am a financial company looking to engage people over the age of 65, I probably shouldn't be doing anything on Instagram. And yet you'd be amazed how many companies really try to make that work. So you need to understand who you're trying to reach, where you can reach them, and do you have anything meaningful to say on that platform? So the 2 questions that you should be asking to determine whether or not you should be creating video for the channel that you're working with is this. Is your target audience there, engaging with content relevant to your offering, and can you communicate meaningfully in the prescribed media format? So the specific nuances of that platform. If the answer to both those things is yes, all systems go. If it's no, fine, choose a different platform. And do one thing well rather than trying to do a million things quite badly. So let's talk through 2 different kinds of video distribution for acquisition. We've got video on your own website and video on the social channels. So to start with, we'll just go through video on your own website. And this ostensibly boils down to what we might call video SEO. And many of you may have heard that term, but what we're talking about here is trying to get traffic to your website by using video as the means to do that. So Google Videos is often one of the most prominent sidebars in Google search. And what you might want to do is get a link like that at the top for digitaltrends.com, where they have the thumbnail, and you can see that this is a very engaging, visually appealing, clickable link, and these often get far more clicks than just the images themselves. But it's much more nuanced than that. So this article, where it may rank #1 in video searches, because it's a kind of how-to query, it's something that's clearly an informational intent, going back to kind of what Matt was talking about earlier, we see that it also ranks #2 for this query in the organic search just after apple.com. And so the fact that this has video on the page is really helping those rankings and boosting it up. And we find this across a whole bunch of informational queries. If you have a video on the page, you tend to rank better. And not only that, but you can get kind of different sort of types of results. So here's one, this is a Google image search result that actually has a link in it to go and watch a video. So if you click that button, this is on a mobile, if you click that button on your iPhone, it then takes you to the website in order to go and watch that video, and it will start auto-playing. So Google are increasingly expanding their infrastructure, their understanding of video, in order to deliver people the right kind of results and the right kind of content. And some of you may be thinking, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, but a bit far-fetched and hard for us. Does it really affect traffic? Well, Google Search Console, the recent update has just included an area where you can actually go in and check what kind of traffic and what kind of queries you're ranking for in terms of for video results. You can go in and you can see what the difference is. This was a site I was working on recently, and as you can see, we didn't have any videos indexed, none. We then indexed them, boom, big bump in traffic across the board, and has a significant impact on the overall conversion and acquisition that the brand are seeing. The other thing you should be doing here is having one page per video. Because the way that Google ranks videos is they don't think of them as images like kind of assets that can be attributed of their own. They are essentially tied to a page. So if you have one page with hundreds of videos on it, Google are going to try and rank that page for everything, and you're not really going to be able to optimize the page title for the video or anything else in question. So it's much better to just have one page per video. If you want to have a big gallery, just make sure you've also got individual pages with the videos on them, and you can use rel canonical to kind of deal with any discrepancies there. But make sure that you're having, for every video that you're making, one nice page with some supporting copy, all the beautiful metadata and structured data that you might want to include there, and you'll ensure that you're giving yourself the best opportunity to rank well. So what kind of video should you be making for video SEO, or to put it another way, to drive people to your website? Well, who here uses the tool Stat Analytics? Anyone? One, yes. Well done you. So Stat was recently bought by Moz, but I think it's my favorite of the rank tracking tools out there. And what it does really beautifully is allows you to see some of the more nuanced queries about information that people are asking. So one thing that Stat will like to do is to see basically these sorts of queries. So you can say the queries that are likely to return video results are usually those that are informational, i.e. start with a kind of question or an intent-based search that should be answered via a video or a demonstration in some form. So we can go into Stat and we can click this report, which is people also ask, and this basically shows you the pulls in the list of data from a specific query that will show you what people are also searching for a Google search that are questions. And here is a list of things that potentially you should go and make videos about. So if I'm trying to rank for things around screen recorder for the Soapbox product, here is some videos that I should go and be making in order to rank and get the rich snippets, get the rich data, and get that traffic. So we've talked about website. What about YouTube and Facebook and the social medias? So let's start with YouTube. There's kind of two approaches that you can take to getting attraction, getting views and things on YouTube. You can either meet demand or you can generate demand. And I think where most YouTube strategies fall down is that they don't do either of these things. So meeting demand essentially means you are serving the intent of the searcher. People often talk about YouTube as being the second biggest search engine after Google. And that's true, although it's a very specific kind of search engine, and usually it's about informational queries, cat videos, whatever else people might be looking for. So you can either serve the searcher intent and do some research to determine what people are searching for, or you can respond to the culture, the news, whatever's popular at the time, the zeitgeist. So that's one way to do it. It's probably the most reliable and effective way to get views on YouTube. The other way you can do it is to generate demand, either via PR with all the kind of tactics Lexi was talking about earlier, influencer seeding, so working with partners who already have big engaged audiences on YouTube and asking them to promote it or cross-post the video, whatever it might be. And lastly, of course, YouTube advertising itself. So the most popular content on YouTube is music. Most people think it's cats or dogs or silly things, but it's actually music. And this really speaks to the nature of what YouTube is as a platform. If video is oral and visual in nature, it's a combination of sound and image, YouTube is really slightly skewed towards the sound part of that. YouTube is really an oral platform, or rather it's a conceptual platform, because the way in which we find content on YouTube is usually by typing in words and by clicking links that are based on the words. So it's topic-oriented. It's oriented around thoughts, which are often expressed through language, which of course in video is delivered through sound. You with me? So basically that means if you're trying to create content for YouTube, you should think about the fact that it's usually going to be stuff that works better without the visual than stuff that works better without the audio. If it still works without the visual, it's probably still something you could do on YouTube. So for example, podcasts or lectures or all that kind of thing work incredibly well for that platform. One tool that you should all be using for YouTube optimization, so you can all go and install it right now, is a Chrome extension, a free Chrome extension called TubeBuddy. And TubeBuddy is really great because it basically gives you just a list of, with all your YouTube videos, of all the things that you haven't done that you should do that are quite easy to do. So things like tagging, descriptions, all that kind of stuff. And it will also give you information about competing videos to tell you what other videos got people are watching, what kind of queries being searched for in order to reach that video. So if you see something you'd like to replicate, you can understand the kind of distribution infrastructure that led to its success. There's also a system that you can apply to try and find out whether there's opportunity for your video on YouTube. So what too many of us do, as I was alluding to earlier, is think of a great idea for a video and then worry about distributing it afterwards. And if you try that on YouTube, you're going to inherently fail. You should instead, before you even get to the drawing board of scripting, be looking at whether or not there is opportunity for your video. So a good way to determine this is to type in the query that your video is related to. See if the videos for that query already have significant views, so more than 10,000 or so. See if the top 10 results are older. So if it's lots and lots of fresh content, it's going to be hard to stand out. But if there's older content, you can disrupt it. And also, subjectively, but most importantly, the videos are not very good. So if you see a query in YouTube that has a lot of views, but actually quite bad content, that tells you there's an opportunity for you to come in, do something better, and actually meet the inherent latent demand of people that are using YouTube to search for and discover new things. So I talked about this content strategy framework briefly, and for YouTube, there's a few questions in here that are really important. So particularly the subject, the theme, the hook, and the MVC, which means minimum viable conversion. So with every video that you are creating, you should be determining, is this a topic that I can meaningfully talk about? Is this something that our organization have expertise in that we can really do great content about? Is there a theme? What's the one thing this shows? Is there some interesting idea that's coming out from this video itself? The hook, why will anyone care? What's the sort of reason to actually watch this video? What's the emotional impetus to be engaged and want to share it, perhaps? And what's the measurable engagement at each stage? So this means what's the smallest next action somebody could take? And that should define how the video ends. So whether or not you need to tell somebody to go to a website, or whether they need to subscribe to your channel, or whatever they need to do that's going to be the meaningful next action for your business. So get those 4 things right, and make sure that you're meeting or generating demand in the right way, and you'll surely succeed on YouTube. But your YouTube channel does need to have a value proposition. And what I mean by this is too many businesses will create a YouTube channel that's just the name of the business and assume that that will somehow serve them. And of course it won't, because I have no particular reason, if I don't know anything about the videos your business are making, to go and explore or subscribe to your YouTube channel, or to discover anything about you on YouTube at all. So here's an example of this done right. This is a channel called DrinksTube, which is by Jamie Oliver, who's a celebrity chef in the UK. And that guy from the left is my friend Kyle, and we've been friends for about 13 years or so now. And Kyle runs the channel. So Kyle and I sat down for a drink not too long ago, and I asked him, Kyle, tell me some secrets about how you've managed to get your channel so successful. And one thing was, he said, well, the focus is not on Jamie Oliver, it's on the drinks. And what that means is the channel has a clear value proposition. It's about creating drinks and telling people how to make different exciting drinks and using the expertise in the organization, cocktail making, being chefs, all that kind of thing, to provide advice for people that they can then go and take away. And the other thing he said was that all the thumbnails are very consistent and look really beautiful. And I looked at them and thought, yeah, that's true. And I asked him how he managed to get that the case, and his advice was this. It was, think of your thumbnails like movie posters. which I thought was really smart. Because what I was doing before was just going through and selecting a frame from the video that I thought looked okay. But what he does is goes into Photoshop and makes specific frames for each of the videos, and then uploads them to YouTube, which you can do, and then ensures that each one is really effective at advertising the content that's within the video, so that when people see it in the sidebar on YouTube, they're likely to click on it and actually watch the video itself. It works a charm. The other thing is, Wistia, the company I work for, we've done a bit of research. We've seen that if you have a custom thumbnail, one that you've uploaded rather than the default one, you tend to get, on average, an increase in play rate of 35%. That's some statistics across 1 million videos. Last tip for YouTube, use playlists to rank for terms you don't already have videos for. So what this means is essentially the beauty of YouTube as a platform with its infrastructure is that you can create playlists. And these playlists don't even have to have just your videos in them. So for example, here from DrinksTube, they have a playlist called Thanksgiving Drinks. And everything in this playlist is just videos that they already had that were kind of around autumnal, fall cocktails that they can then put in a list called Thanksgiving Drinks. And now anybody who searches on Google or YouTube for Thanksgiving Drinks in the States will get this and they'll be able to watch the video. So it's a great way of building a kind of tagging infrastructure that allows your videos to get more views than they otherwise would. All right, that's YouTube. What about Facebook? Facebook videos obviously been around for a couple of years now, and I think I've finally cracked the code of how to make it work. So when we were at Wistia, we kind of have been doing sort of Facebook video for a couple of years now, and it took us a while to get things successful. But I'm going to talk you through the story that led us there. So when Facebook first came out with video, we thought, well, maybe people will kind of like to hear about our product updates on Facebook. We can ensure that the people who already like us on Facebook are going to see this, and they'll be engaged with what we're saying. So here's what we came up with. We got sound? Thank you.
Wistia now supports 1080p, which means your videos will look clearer and crisper in full screen.
That's super crisp.
You can select which video quality works best for your video strategy. Optimize for quality or for deliverability. With that 1080p resolution, you might even be able to fool your dog.
Okay, we thought it was fun, kind of cute, told some information. The response was tumbleweed. Nobody cared, nobody was interested at all. So we thought, well, okay, well, maybe we just double down on the dog thing and we'll just have a video of the dog going in slow motion, rolling over for a treat. And thought that was kind of funny. Published that. Again, tumbleweed, nobody cared. So we thought, okay, what's going on? Why are people not engaging with these videos that, to all intents and purposes, by everything we know, should engage with our audience? And finally, we cracked it one day. And it was through this video, which was published on Valentine's Day, the emotional day, was it 14th of Feb, I think.
That's really great.
That is alarming.
Okay, so that was actually shot on an iPhone. Took about an hour to make. It was just a kind of fun throwaway thing. But we suddenly noticed that we had, for us, a lot of responses. We think, oh, hold on a minute, we've got over 1,000 views on this, 27 likes, a couple of comments. What's going on? And I think the reason this works has more to do with the way Facebook works than the nature of the video itself. So most of us consume video like this, or we rather consume Facebook like this. We're sat down, we're on our mobile devices, we're a bit bored. Some of you are doing it right now. Or if you're like me, it might be like this. Why do we check Facebook? Well, we're bored and we're mobile. And not only that, we are using a screen that is not wide, but actually vertical in some senses. So it's a very, very different platform to the ones that we're used to working with. And it's silent. And here's the kind of key thing, is that Facebook allows 99% of videos to kind of watch silently with no clicks that people actually listen to stuff. Because you're in public, you have your phone out, you probably aren't going to want to listen to the sound. You may have music on if you have headphones. So we're bored, we're mobile, we're muted, and we have a few spare minutes. So if video is oral and visual, I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this, and YouTube is oral primarily and visual, Facebook is exactly the other way around. It's primarily a visual platform. It's somewhere that actually the essence of the video is its visual element. So that video with the pancakes, the reason it worked is that you didn't need to have the sound. You could actually watch it autoplay, and the story was told through the visual narrative, and it was engaging visually enough to actually have people look at it. And so we may need to think back with Facebook video to the very dawn of cinema, to the world of Charlie Chaplin and the silent film era to understand what's really going to work for us and replicate what worked for them. And I'll now show you a video that is one of our most successful ones and shows how you can actually apply that knowledge of a fun, silly video and create something that's effective for a product on Facebook. So it makes a product point, tells you there's a new product, but also hooks in with that visual storytelling that can provide a bit of entertainment and humor. So I call it the strategy that works on Facebook snacks. It's something that's going to entertain people, provide a little bit of a dopamine release, a hit of excitement when they're otherwise bored and they're on their phone and they're looking for some entertainment. If you can create something that will do that, it doesn't need to be funny, but it does need to hook someone emotionally. And if you can do that, you're going to fly on Facebook video. What about live streaming? Obviously, a lot of companies are doing live streaming at the moment. Adidas did a great thing with Messi, where they just had him do football training. GE, the American company, General Electric, have done a bunch of stuff where they just took drones and showed all their massive equipment that they have, and people who nerd out on giant engineering things love that kind of content. And I think the essence of a live stream is that it only works when it's a privileged view, which means it only works when you're showing something that has that exclusivity that wants to make people tune in. So is it an exclusive event? Do you have an interesting manufacturing process? Are you in an exciting physical space? Or do you have, like Lionel Messi, iconoclastic people? We kind of made this work a little bit at Wistia. We did something that was like a video that was an AMA with our founders, and they just recently rebought out the company, so it was something that excited people in that regard, and that kind of worked. But if you're doing this kind of thing that maybe you want to do an AMA or you want to do a lecture or something, the best live streaming platform I've found for that kind of more webinar-y intellectual content is called Crowdcast.io, and I love using this and would very much recommend it for anything Facebook Live, Periscope, etc. Also, with social media video, I would advise you not to get hung up on virality, and this is true for YouTube and Facebook. I've worked with quite a few videos that have gone viral and that kind of thing, but the truth is that going viral does not mean that it will have a meaningful success for your business. Often getting 10,000 views from very important potential customers is far more important than getting 100,000 views from anyone. I had a recent video that went viral that was around Hot Dog Man. So this was just a Wistia video that we made that was around the Snapchat hot dog, and we made these kind of silly video that was like a music video that kind of was like this. We got about 100,000 views for that and made no difference on the business at all. All right, so moving on to video for conversion. So there's the initial question of, does video on your website really help conversion? And from what I found, in most cases, yes, absolutely, because it's different media type people can engage with, and this is the stats for Wistia, so you can see that we have a dramatically increased conversion rate for anyone who actually watches the video. If you'd like to see how this applies to your particular website, there's a free GA Google Analytics dashboard at this link, so I'll send the slides out afterwards, but go and install this and see how video might be improving your conversion funnel. And one of the most important things video can do is lead generation. And this is because you can add in email capture forms on the top of video. And these will typically convert way, way better than just a standard lead capture form on a page. And what I have an example here is the average rate for conversions for video email lead capture. So at Wistia, we call these turnstiles. And what you can see is that actually if you put the turnstile just a few seconds or a few percentage points into the video, so 10 or 20%, you can get over a 40% conversion rate on particular emails for that. And the reason for that is that if somebody started watching your video and they're bought into the idea that you're selling, then they're more likely to actually give you that email in order to watch the rest of the video. It's that endowed progress concept in psychology. So make sure that you're using email capture forms to improve your conversion rate if you're doing lead capture or CRM work or anything like that. And also we found that longer videos tend to get more leads. So if you're doing lead generation, make sure you're doing things like lectures, longer form videos, series, that kind of stuff that people are going to want to invest their time in to watch. Obviously, don't do it on a product video where you're trying to sell someone or something. So the kind of formats that work are lectures, webinars, courses, interviews, all that kind of thing. The kind of stuff that works on YouTube, interestingly. Okay, what about paid media for video conversion? So what about when we're using video to advertise and try and drive conversions, drive new customers, drive new leads? Well, I've worked out the secret formula here, and I'm going to share it with you. So YouTube obviously has a skip ad button, and it means after 5 seconds, you can skip the ad and not watch it. Facebook also has a skip ad button. It's called a thumb, and here's what happens. You can see the video comes up, and it's gone. So if the skip ad button on YouTube is 5 seconds, it's probably 2 or 3 seconds on Facebook as people are scrolling through. And if you do a bunch of promotion on these things, you'll see that your Facebook view graph will almost always start, for any paid videos, start 100% and then drop off immediately, as so many people are just scrolling past it in a couple of seconds. So the important thing to remember is that the number of impressions is not the number of people that are impressed. And on both YouTube and Facebook, but particularly Facebook, as they've recently got in trouble for, the number of views, that view count is always massively inflated, and it tells you that all these people saw your video, and in reality, they probably didn't. But also that the number of likes is not the number of people that liked it. So don't get too obsessed with the view count or the number of overall interactions. Actually, often the best interaction with a video is somebody just watching it all the way through. And that's the most important metric to measure if you're trying to gauge success. Watching it through and then subsequently converting either on a different channel or on a different session. So the way to think about it is that the video itself is like the guitar. That's the organic potential. And the paid distribution is like the amplifier, in that you really can only amplify stuff when it's really good content. And otherwise, you end up spending a lot of money promoting things that don't work. And so what I've found is that the biggest variable by an enormous distance in success with video advertising is the quality of the video itself. And I'll show you some examples of this. So $600 was spent to promote these two videos. This one was just a video on Facebook that showed you, it was a kind of some advice for a video about social media. And we see a cost per completed view there of 12 cents to get people to actually watch that. For this video, that was actually about Snapchat spectacles that people seem more interested in, the cost per completed view was 4. So 3 times as well, with exactly the same targeting, exactly the same spend, just a slightly different video. And that's the variable we should be testing the most. And in fact, we recently, the most recent campaign I've been working on is designed to do this from the perspective of production quality. So we've got 3 different videos to answer the question of how much does production quality matter in video advertising. I've made 3 ads with a company in Los Angeles called Sandwich Video. We've been partnering with them. 3, one for $1,000, one for $10,000, and one for $100,000 that show exactly the same kind of concept. It's all the product ad for exactly the same product. And so the budget for the first was $1,000, and here you can see it was shot on an iPhone. And it was kind of just pretty basic, something that somebody did in a day. And then the second one we did was the same kind of concept, very similar script, for $10,000, which was shot on a slightly higher-end Canon camera. And then the last one was shot on a great big Hollywood documentary quality Area mirror for $100,000 to promote this video, to make a proper sort of quality TV-looking ad. Which one do you reckon delivered the best return on investment for advertising distribution? Well, I'll tell you, don't share this yet because the report's coming out later this month, but it was the 10K. Did far better. And this was probably more because the storytelling in that video really matched the production quality and it worked the best. So production quality spend does not necessarily mean that you're going to get return. And actually, often you can do more for lower spend than you can for higher spend. It's all about getting that story right and make sure it works. But what about product video? What about video that you're just trying to create something that maybe is getting people engaged in what you're trying to sell? And I would always advise you, instead of worrying too much about the flashiness, just worry about the storytelling. And the storytelling should be something a bit like this. Here is a video to demonstrate an incredibly boring product. And you'll see that the storytelling is all about trying to bring that to life and make it meaningful for people.
What? You didn't notice? All right, one more time. Try not to blink. Whew. That is one fast video player. The speed is all thanks to our brand new Wistia player, Vulkan V2. Vulkan V2 is half the size of our previous player and comes in at 1/4 the size of YouTube's. Although it looks a lot like our last player, Vulkan V2 has been totally rewritten to make sure your videos load insanely fast. A smaller player means faster loading pages. Faster loading pages mean better SEO, and of course, a better experience for your viewers. Let's go under the hood with Max and Luke.
To reduce the size of our player, we had to make a bunch of changes to the code. Hit it, Luke.
We added progressive thumbnails, Brotli compression, HTTP2 server push to avoid round trips when loading extra functionality like turnstiles. We serve different bundles based on user agent, deferred loading of the video playback engine until after your site has loaded. We hand-tuned our SVGs, converted 15 hard-coded shapes into references to other glyphs, and rewrote almost everything to make the player smaller and faster.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, you get the idea. So the reason that that incredibly nerdy video that's just a list of all the dumb, stupid stuff that is in a software update works is because what we're actually doing is telling the story behind the product decisions. We're not just saying, hey, there's a thing, you should buy it, it's great. We're telling the ideas and the things that led to the decisions made. And thus, we're bringing a human story into something that is ultimately very technical and quite boring. All right, finally, in the last few minutes, video for retention. How do you get people to stay with you, embrace your company, celebrate what you're about, and actually become better long-term customers? Well, I think CRM is becoming one-to-one. So we used to kind of, in the world of email and email marketing, we would be used to doing lots of automated flows that we would make sure we're sending people the right kind of thing based on these triggers, and there's tons of software that's come out to kind of enable us to do this. But I think increasingly, when everybody has the same technology, there is no differentiation in just a million automated email flows. And so what we should be looking at is trying to move away from this kind of automation where, you remember these people that were on every single website in the world about 10 years ago? All these people were here, and nobody wanted to buy from them. We're now in that phase of email where the level of automation is completely impersonal and is pretending to be personal. I think we should be looking to change things up. So the way that video can really work in this regard is by allowing one person to make a video to be sent to one other person, just like this. So what we're doing here is...
A lot of snow, and it looks like you're going to have to do that again tomorrow, and it might actually be a bigger storm at this point. So wanted to see how your evaluation for the Wistia Pardot integration has been going. I know we both talked about the love for HubSpot, but got to work with what you have, right? So please let me know if you need anything else, and if you need anything else from case studies to screenshots to resources, that's what I'm here for. So hopefully we can welcome you by the end of this week, but just let me know how else we can help and get you what you need. Thanks so much, and be safe tomorrow. See ya.
So that's Katie from the Wistia sales team, and she just is making videos about 30 to 40 a day to potential customers to speak to them directly via video rather than just sending them an email. And you can bet when you get something like this in your inbox, it's way more engaging and you're far more likely to respond to it than you are just a standard email, because you're seeing Katie's charming face and you're seeing what's going on, and you feel that personal connection with her, and then you're far more likely to want to continue the conversation. And the tools are now there to allow you to make videos this quickly and distribute them as fast as you would just write an email. And so this world is about moving away from personalized email and personalized CRM to actually a very genuine personal one, and allowing technology to remove this stuff out of the way so that we can just concentrate on having people-to-people conversations in our business lives. And so the tool that I've been working on and that we have got at Wistia to help you do that is called Soapbox. And I would love for you to go and install it and use it. It's free. And the way it works is you can create a video and share your screen at the same time. And then what you want to do is kind of give a kind of demonstration on the screen. You can flick back and forth between the webcam and the screen recording and create something that really looks professional and exciting. Make it in just a couple of seconds. It's ready to share as soon as you finish recording and adding in the edits. And you don't need to download it. You don't need to export it. Nothing. It's just there ready to go. So you can do it honestly as quickly as you can send an email. It's just that you need to get into the habit and the practice of doing that. But personal also works for one-to-many, so you can use this kind of approach to making these fun little personal videos and bringing them into the kind of emails that you're sending to all different people. So I do this every week for different Soapbox users. I'll just send them a little tip to a few thousand people and say, hey, here's a slightly different way to use the product, and give them that kind of thing. And we get enormous increase in this. So the increase in clicks from the email is about 3 times as many as you get from just a regular image. And you can imagine it's far more engaging. So the deliverability is better, the open rate is better because it's a very simple email. It's just an image, and it's a link, and it's a few lines of text, and people then click it and have a fuller experience on a proper website. Video is also great for CRM and retention because it's the most measurable medium. So if you think about a web page, you can see when someone lands on a web page, you can see when they kind of leave it, but really what you can't do is see how they consume the content. But that's not true with video, because with video, you can see exactly where somebody clicked in, how much they watched, whether they went back and watched another bit, or exactly where they dropped off from the content. And you can use this to inform not only the future production, the quality, but also the kind of interactions that you're having with them via your CRM and your marketing automation. So you can send this content to something like Marketo, and you can build lists, you can build workflows based on somebody having just watched 50% of a video, or 75%, or 100%, and use this to determine and change the message that you might be speaking to them. So using video to combine and create a much more integrated and full experience via the CRM. So the robots are taking over. We're all going to have amazing technology. We all do have amazing technology. We live in a world of incredible technology. But I think the real challenge and the beauty with video is that it allows us to bring people back into that relationship. It allows us to be creative, it allows us to be human, it allows us to speak to one another, removing all those stupid robot barriers. And so I hope that instead of being robotic, the future of great marketing is going to be human, maybe canine. And in a world where 80% of the world's internet traffic will be video, I hope you're going to approach that creatively and do interesting things. So where creativity is the last unfair advantage it allows us to take over our competitors, video is your sandbox to play with that. So I'll just leave you with a couple of final thoughts. We have this space where we can be doing all kinds of video. Maybe we're making things the entire target market. Maybe we're just making a few videos. I would advise you to start really, really small. So start with just, if you're not doing video right now and you're really desperate to get started, just make a video for the CRM. Just make a video for one customer that you're going to send them using Soapbox or a similar product. Start there and build your tone of voice, build your brand, and it will flow into the stuff that you're doing that might be bigger, edgy, bigger budget video. And this is what we've done at Wistia. We got really small video to start with, and we've now expanded into bigger videos. So we're thinking big, but starting small. I would like you to do the same. You can have videos like this that you've made in an afternoon, just quickly. And then what we've also been doing at Wistia is we finally got to that huge point where we've gone full and made a full movie that we're now distributing in movie theaters and via Amazon and that kind of thing. So there's a movie coming out next week called 110-100 about the process of making these 3 videos for $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 video. So the future, I think, is companies making not only videos for one person, but videos for the entire world. And I would love you to start small, but think big in the future of where you're going. That was me. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you so much. We have some questions for you, actually, before you leave. We have like 7, 8 questions, but of course, I choose 3 of them for you.
Perfect.
So our first question is coming from one of our attendees, and he asked that, what do you think about the live streaming platforms like Twitch? Do you think can be used for digital marketing, or video marketing?
Probably not. I think Twitch is a great platform, but it's for a specific kind of content, specific kind of user. Unless you're in the world of video games or that kind of thing, I don't see how you would make that work. I think there are lots of good live streaming options out there, and increasingly, much like video is now across every single platform, I'm sure live streaming will in the future be around that kind of platform. So it comes back to the question of where's your audience. If your audience are on Twitch, then great, that's a place you can speak to them. But I think for most businesses, that won't be the case.
So, thank you. And what do you think about do you have any quick win suggestions for listed on Google Carousel or on Video Carousel?
On Video Carousel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely. The main thing is just ensuring that you've delivered all the relevant metadata to Google, and you'll appear in the carousel results if you're relevant for that query. So all the traditional kind of SEO stuff. There's no kind of magic sauce there particularly, aside from ensuring that the videos are indexed and for the queries and they're ranking for the queries that are delivering those kind of video carousel results.
Yeah. So, and you also mentioned that nearly 80% of the content is going to be video on 2019. And
yeah.
Do you think that it's also important? I mean, the position in a video position in a page. Do you think it's important? For example, if we just place on the top of the page, do you think it also helps to get rank better, or do you think it has any relationship like this?
Yes, yes, it does. Particularly if you are like trying to drive a lot of plays. So the further up the page a video is, the more likely it is to be played, the more you're going to get interactions with it. So for queries that are delivering video results, you want the video to be front and center so that that particular experience that somebody has on Google is going to be watching the video. Google then get the information, the bounce rates, the exit rates, etc., and that's going to influence whether or not your page ranks. It's not a case that immediately where on the page is going to directly affect the ranking, but it does have those second order effects. So I would try and get it prominent as much as I can say, try and make sure it's prominent and easy to watch, and that usually means somewhere vaguely above the fold with a nice big play button and a nice player.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.